Hello everyone, how are you all? I hope you would be fine. This is Sidra Kashif representing MSK Linguistics Center from Pakistan, Karachi. Being an EFL and IELTS instructor plus moderator and founder, it's really honorable to have a very special guest from Italy. She is Teresa Lara Pugliese. She is one of the instructors who teaches Italian language. So, as you all know, that commonly I do invite different foreigners who are expert in their profession. So today we have Lara. She would talk about learning Italian obstacle and solutions. In this, we would discuss about the challenges which are faced by the aspirants who aspire to enhance their career chances in European country or to learn Italian language as a second or third language. Whether you are an educationist or a learner, this live podcast is going to be really fruitful to all of you. So let's get connected till the end. Hello, dear Lara. Good evening from Pakistan. Warm welcome to you.
Hello, hi. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure for me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to have you for this fruitful topic. Dear Lara, I would like to have you to introduce yourself to our audience so they could get to know about yourself. Who is Lara?
Yeah, I am an Italian language and cultural coach, and I am the founder of Italian by Lara. I hold a PhD in the humanities, and before creating this program, I worked as a journalist in Italy. And this taught me that communication is never just about words, it is about context, culture, and connections. I work exclusively with adults. This is not a coincidence. It is a choice rooted in my method. Adults don't learn a language the way the children do. They don't absorb it passively. They need meaning, relevance, and personal connection to what they are learning. And when they find that, they can progress faster than they ever imagined. That is why I never start from grammar. I start from the person, from what is meaningful to them, what they need, what they love, what genuinely excites them about Italy and Italian language. Language and culture are always taught together in my work. So history, literature, art, the Italian way of life. Because Italian is not just a system to master, it is a word to enter, and every adult learner deserves a method built around who they are.
Fantastic. We are really pleased to have you for this useful topic. And we hope that the solutions could be given by you that would be really fruitful for our audience. Okay, dear Lara, I have designed few questions as per your expertise. If you allow me, shall I ask you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm delighted to
That's
reply to
great.
your questions.
As you know that pizza is really famous by Italy. Our audience knows about it very well. That is delicious or introduced by Italy. But they would like to explore about Italian language as well. So the common question which is asked by the candidates, it's that why should we learn Italian? Why is it useful? How
Yeah,
useful is it?
yeah. Italian may not be the most widely spoken language in the world today, but its reach is far greater than many people realize. Because of the historic waves of Italian emigration, the language and its culture have taken root across North America, South America, and beyond. Today, there are entire communities in Argentina, the United States, Canada, and Brazil where Italian heritage is still very much alive in daily life. Italy itself remains one of the most visited, admired, and economically significant countries in the world. Learning Italian gives you access to its art, architecture, literature, food culture, and its people in a
No
way
doubts.
no translation ever fully captures. It is also deeply useful for travel, for business, for academic study, and for those pursuing Italian citizenship. But honestly, beyond all the practical reasons, Italian is one of the most expressive and beautiful languages there is. Once you begin, it tends to stay with you in a very personal way.
I appreciate it. You have elaborated very well. I hope that it would be clear to you, our learners or our viewers. That's amazing definition of Italian language. How useful it is.
How useful it
Okay.
is, yeah.
Next question is, what are the challenges which are faced by the learners to learn Italian as non-native speakers, to learn it
Yeah.
as a second or third language?
Yeah, there are several real challenges that come up consistently. The first one is grammar. Italian has gender nouns, verb conjugations, and agreements that can feel overwhelming at first, especially for English speakers whose language has far fewer of these structures. The second challenge is pronunciation. Italian has a musicality and rhythm that takes time to internalize. Then there is what I call the cultural layer, the gestures, the tone, the way things are said in certain situations, which grammar books rarely teach, but which is absolutely essential for real communication. And finally, many learners struggle with confidence. They study for months, even years, but still freeze when they need to actually speak. That gap between knowing and expressing is one of the deepest challenges and the one I focus on most in my work.
I couldn't agree more, as I find it that is really challengeable because of some alphabets pronunciation or accent too. As the name which I have pronounced, it is in written form, or if we pronounce it in English, so it's Pugliese. But in Italian language, according to their accent or pronunciation, it's Pugliese, right? So I find it really difficult to pronounce it, or to learn Italian language as a second or third language. What would you like to say?
Yeah, obviously, you need a good approach, especially when you are an adult. And my approach is actually built for that very starting point. So, starting learning Italian when you're not 16 anymore. Most of my students, they are over 50. And I can guarantee you that with the proper method, you can learn Italian. But obviously, you need a good method. And on my side, I can tell you that I've spent years in the UK, and I also have daughters who study English here at school. So I know how English speakers learn English language, how they learn how to write, how to read. And so honestly, when I approach English speakers who need to learn Italian, I already know what is their mind, what is the structure in their brain in approaching the language. So I feel that I'm very successful with my method because I know deeply both um, both the languages, and I can approach properly, especially with people who are not 16 anymore. Mm.
Fantastic. It's all about multicultural as well. No? You need to consider uh, all students according to their culture or tradition as well,
Yeah, this is very
because they
important.
belong to different backgrounds, having multiple accents or pronunciation. That is really challengeable.
Yeah, and my starting point in any case with any kind of student, because I have students from US, I have also a few students from Australia, from north of Europe, but I even have students from Brazil. I mentioned to you there is a big community in Brazil of people who have Italian heritage and want to connect again with that part of their story. But what I use is a method that never begins with grammar rules or abstract tables. I begin with meaning. Mm. So we start with real phrases, real contexts, situations that immediately feel relevant and useful to that particular student. Because adults don't learn the way children do. They need to understand why something matters before it can click. So, from the very first lesson, even a complete beginner is engaging with actual Italian, hearing it, saying it, connecting it to something real in their life. The grammar comes in gradually, once there is already a foundation of meaning to attach it to. The goal is that every student leaves every lesson feeling that they have entered the language, not just observed it from the outside.
Yeah, I believe that it's a really dynamic way to teach any language as a second or third language. That is really appreciated as the method which is followed by you. Okay, let's move to the next question. How do you deal the students who don't know a single Italian word at the very initial stage? And
Yeah,
what makes you authentic to teach English? Sorry, to teach Italian.
yeah. As I have already mentioned, the meaning is the starting point of my job, of my work, and and this method is deeply rooted in my personal story. Mm. I grew up in Italy with an Italian father and a foreign mother. So I witnessed from my childhood what it means to live inside the language without ever fully feeling at home in it. So that experience, that was the experience of my mother, who learned Italian simply by immersion, stayed with me because it took years for my mother to succeed as a mother, as a woman, as a professional in Italy, and even as a spouse, because she learned everything simply by immersion. It's not easy to do it, it's challenging. She succeeded at the
Definitely.
end, but it took about 10 years for her to go through this process. And about 6 years ago, after completing my PhD in the humanities and working as a journalist in Italy, I moved to the UK and found myself in exactly the same position my mother had been in. So even with a good command of English, the deeper cultural codes were not always immediately clear to me. So that crossing of perspectives, the academic, the journalistic, the deeply personal, is the real foundation of Italian Bailara. I don't just teach language as a system, I teach it as a living experience because I know what it truly takes to enter a culture, not just translate it.
That's great. Okay, let's move towards the next question. Um, how much duration is taken to learn Italian as a second or third language? What would you like to say from basic to advanced? Sorry, basics to intermediate level. We could talk
Yeah,
about.
I think that it takes far less than most people imagine. Mm. And I say this not as a promise, but as something I have seen with my own students. On my website, italianbailara.com, I offer structured programs, including an intensive program of 21 one-to-one sessions. One of my students, Tony, an American woman, came to me as a complete beginner, not a single word of Italian, maybe simply pasta, pizza. And after those 21 sessions, she was able to read Italian property listings on her own and rent her first apartment in Tuscany independently. I am genuinely proud of what she achieved. On my website, you can watch the conversation we had together just a few days before she left for Italy. So, my answer is with the right approach, it is absolutely possible to go from complete beginner to intermediate in around 2 months, even as an adult, well past 16. When the method speaks to how adults actually learn through meaning, relevance, and real use, the progress can genuinely surprise you.
Appreciable. So that is indeed really useful for especially the candidates who aspire to get admission in Italian universities. As you know that most of the times they offer low admission charges, so people opt to it.
Great. So, if you ever wanted to learn Italian but feel intimidated or tried before and felt like it wasn't for you, I genuinely believe the problem was never you. It was the approach.
Hmm.
Most traditional methods ask you to memorize rules before you have had the chance to fall in love with the language. I
Mhm.
do it the other way around. And to anyone currently studying with me, thank you for trusting this process. Every time a student tells me they said something in Italian and it actually worked, that is the moment that makes this work meaningful. And a heartfelt thank you to you, Miss Sidra Kashif, for this space and for the incredible work that you do in connecting teachers and learners across cultures. Language learning doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in community. Thank you.
Indeed. Okay, dear Lara, you have elaborated all of the questions very well. I really appreciate it. Would you like to add something more? Would you like to say about Ms. Sidra Kashif or MSK Linguistics Center? Or if you just show your expertise or service there, so you could add it. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, if you would like to begin your Italian journey, come and find me at italianbailara.com. I wait you.
Okay. How was the session? How have you felt with us?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, I love this interview. Thank you very much.
It's been a really great time with you. Wish you have ahead in further live podcast or sessions in future.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sidra.
So nice of you. Thanks for giving us your valuable time.
Bye. Best wishes from Edinburgh. Bye.
Okay, bye. Okay, dear audience, I hope that session has been really fruitful to all of you, whether you are an educationist, consultant, or a learner. So you may follow us or subscribe our channel on YouTube. You may follow on Instagram, Facebook, or on TikTok. So you will be updated further. I would have more updates relevant to languages, or I would have multiple of the professionals again in future, and we hope to have Lara in further live podcast or in sessions. Thank you
I
so
would
much
be
again,
delighted.
Lara.
Thank you. I would be
Thank you.
delighted. I would be delighted.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.